We are all barreling toward potentially the most exciting year in college football that we've had in quite some time. We have crazy conference realignment. We have an expanded 12-team college football playoff, and the newest edition of the college football video game just dropped after a decade-long hiatus. So that's why it's getting so incredibly annoying to keep hearing about this Michigan scandal that the NCAA has already penalized for them for. It's now being reported that current head coach Sharon Moore had texted Connor Stalions. Who actually cares? This level 2 violation would put him in the repeat status offender window, as he was one of 7 Michigan coaches dinged for contacting recruits during COVID. But see, the NCAA has already punished Michigan. They did it last year in real time. Can we please just now move past this whole Connor Stalions thing? Because if you think that sign stealing was the main reason or one of the main reasons why Michigan won a natty last year, then there's some oceanfront property in Kansas I can sell you for a price that would blow your mind. Now, that doesn't mean Michigan wasn't in the wrong or they didn't screw up, and you did punish them accordingly by suspending their head coach for some huge games last year on their way to a title run. The NCAA right now kind of feels like the parent who just sit there and scream stop in the living room while the kids don't listen. They just keep running around tearing the house up. As much as some people dislike Michigan, many more flat out hate the NCAA. And the quicker we can get rid of these guys, the better off we'll all be. This Connor Stalions Michigan scandal has gone from a story to the never-ending story. We're just missing that big flying dog. And as we embark on what is shaping up to be an historic and really just awesome year in college football, the last thing that most of us want to hear more about is the Michigan stuff off the field. Yes, they bent the rules a little bit. Yes, you punished them. Their old head coach is now gone. So for the love of everything and anything, let's move on. We have a season full of complaining to do about so many other and way more important things. To bring in former Michigan quarterback David Cohn, wonder where he sits on this, I could probably tell you. And then my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver Blaine Crain. David, I mean, just from your perspective, being an alumni there, having dealt with this, just what do you think? Because, again, this will just never end. It's like on Austin Powers. Like, why won't you die? It's like Will Ferrell's character. They just can't kill him.
Well, first of all, great open.
Thank you. Really well, it's not. Tired of hearing about it.
No, for real. So all of the information that was leaked yet again to ESPN was known by the NCAA president, Charlie Baker, when he said the following words earlier this year. At the end of the day, quote, "No one believes that Michigan didn't win the national title fair and square." So either one of two things. Either he doesn't have control of the organization that he's running, or 2, none of the new information is going to lead to a retroactive 2023 punishment. Now, I don't blame ESPN, right? ESPN is a news organization that's trying to get clicks. They're trying to get people to open their articles. I really don't blame them. There seems to be some sort of conflict of interest that they have the TV media rights deals with other conferences and for the college football playoff. But again, I don't blame them. I blame the NCAA for these arbitrary processes that they have, and that's regardless of what Michigan did or didn't do. Now, personally, you guys know, I mean, I would like for it to be true that Michigan didn't violate any NCAA bylaws en route to winning the championship. I'm biased. I played quarterback there. At the same time, Michigan football doesn't pay me any money. They don't put food on my kids' tables. What puts food on my kids' tables is coming up here and telling people what I really think, trying to help them win the water cooler in the landscape of college football. And it seems like there's some hard truths that just need to go around for everyone in the country. I mean, the hard truths for Michigan fans is that during the greatest season that the program has ever had, a staffer broke NCAA bylaws by scouting opponents in person. Right? Like that's just happening. It doesn't matter what you and I think about it. It doesn't matter how silly it seems that you can't go watch a football game in person, but you can take all of the 4K footage 10 minutes after the game ends and watches it. It doesn't matter what you and I think about that. A rule is a rule. And it's look, again, it seems so silly that you can't even put that in the headlines. You have to call it sign stealing. But regardless, a rule was violated, and that much we know at this point. But then also, like you said, Michigan was punished for that. Instead of allowing the process to play out, you decided to to suspend the coach in real time, which has to play into this conversation. The hard truth, it seems like, for the rest of the country to swallow is that Connor Stallions didn't have to go watch Michigan State and Central Michigan play in order to be the best team and beat everyone else in the country. I mean, Jim Harbaugh led the 49ers to the Super Bowl for the first time in 2 decades. He led Stanford to a 12-win season. The guy convinced a bunch of seniors to return in a year where they had a top 10 quarterback playing the position and the number 1 defense. Like, they won the Big Ten championship game 26-0. They beat Penn State on the road without throwing a pass in the second half. You beat your rival with an interim head coach for the 3rd straight year. You won the national championship by 3 touchdowns. You beat Nick Saban in his last year. All of that stuff happened after Connor Stallions was already fired. So, look, it hurts for some people around the country to hear that. It hurts for Michigan fans to hear, wait, we didn't do it with the utmost integrity or we violated NCAA bylaws, but it's just the reality of the situation. But regardless of who you pull for around the country, I just want you to understand, don't allow this organization, the NCAA, who constantly wants to talk about integrity in some aspects, but will then allow Leah Thomas to walk around with a championship in women's sports. Don't allow this organization to ruin what's most important, which is the 2024 football season that is beginning in, 19 days?
Yeah.
19 days. That's what's most important. The games.
Yeah, and Blaine, I mean, the NCAA is kind of on their way out of being powerful in college football. Do you think this is just another way for them to stay relevant, maybe as they see themselves out? Or what do you think about this whole thing? Because, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, from 1 to 10 being I'm over it, I'm at about a 30.
They keep trying to make fetch work. Right?
I'm so over it.
Well, you know, the one way you can look at this and the way I am, is anything going to come about this? No, it's 1 level 2 violation. Nothing's going to come. But if you're a Michigan fan, I mean, let's think about it like this. Does the NCAA hate y'all? Or does the NCAA really love y'all? Because let's go back and think. You know, last year when all this started happening, all this started coming down, what did y'all do?
Circle the wagon.
Winning. Right? You just kept winning, and all they did was just give you ammunition to keep putting that gun. Right? And you're just a full clip walking into every Saturday, and it seems like they're doing it again. The closer we get to football season, those hoofs start beating, right? They start beating. So really, if you look at it, if you're a Michigan fan, please come. Please come as close as you want. Give us 2-game suspension. Give us all the motivation and ammunition we need. Hell, I bet people in Georgia are pissed. They're getting arrested every weekend driving 80 miles per hour in a 50, and no NCAA person will talk to them.
Yeah, well, see, I like where your head's at, but for that to be true, the NCAA would have to be operated by smart people with a plan that they can implement and execute to perfection. This is just good old-fashioned disorganization and power grip to me. They're just trying, like Jack in the water in the Titanic. Just hold on. Just hold on. That's what the NCAA is. I'm freezing. I can't feel my legs. That's the NCAA right now in the water. They're just, this is their last grasp. Nope, nobody really cares. Everybody's so over and done with this. What are you going to do, make them vacate wins? Oh, no.
But that's a legitimate question, though. I mean, the only question that has applied to this scenario the entire time for the last 9 months is, what is the punishment for what you're alleging that Michigan did?
I feel like you already punished them, though.
Exactly. So they already made a punishment by intervening last season because they said the integrity of the sport is at stake. So you intervene, but legitimately, what is the punishment if you go and scout your opponent in person? Because I agree with everything that you're saying about the NCAA trying to have this power hold on college football that is slipping every single day. But that doesn't mean that any school can just break the rules with impunity. So it's a legitimate question. I mean, if I go 10 miles an hour over the speed limit, a police officer can give me a ticket. They can't go to my house and arrest all of my family members. So what is the punishment for this? You're talking about, giving the death penalty to the football
See, you're
program?
looking at it from the prism of, there's equal enforcement, and for every action, there's an equal or opposite reaction, and it would make sense. That's not how the NCAA works. The NCAA has been unevenly enforcing their rules onto certain institutions since the beginning of the NCAA. There's not a black and white thing. As black and white as I can put it is, all right, y'all busted them on the Connor Stallions thing. What did you do? You intervened in real time. You suspended their head coach, right, who the buck stops with him, for not only multiple games, but multiple big games as well. Then you come out and say, you know what? Michigan won it fair and square. It's over with. It's done. But no, it's not over with and done. We're just going to keep dragging this thing. They don't operate from a prism of, oh, we're organized, we have a plan, there's steps that we have to go about during this protocol. No, that's the problem with the NCAA. They just throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks, and when it sticks, then they decide whether they're going to enforce it or not. It's just so exhausting, and there's so much other stuff, including a coaches poll that we want to sit up here and complain about, which we can't even get to because y'all won't leave Michigan.
So how do you compare this to what happened with Kentucky? Because now Kentucky's going to have to vacate wins, right? But were their players ineligible, or did their players?
No, it's retroactively. So if people don't know, Kentucky had like 10 or 11 players that got paid money, this is for NIL, for jobs that they didn't perform. They just got paid. They said they were going to do something. They got paid for it. They didn't do it. Now they're retroactively vacating wins from Kentucky, which means absolutely nothing. The only thing that matters is whether or not Mark Stoops can make the College Football Hall of Fame or not, or if he's going to have to sue Kentucky or the NCAA like Les Miles is having to do it to get those wins back. That's the only place that matters. But yeah, that's a retroactive, right, vacating of wins for people that got paid for work that they didn't do. But does anybody really count that? Even those players that played in that game that were quote-unquote ineligible, they're going to consider those wins. I don't think anybody's going to take away the national championship for Michigan, especially since you came out and Charlie Baker said they did not cheat to win the national championship. They are national champions.
Which that will be used in a lawsuit if it gets that far.
100%.
That will be used in a lawsuit if it gets that far. But, okay, so when we talk about the Reggie Bush Heisman thing all the time, right? Okay, Reggie Bush's mom got a house purchased for her or something like that. That didn't lead Reggie Bush to being the best player in college football. He won the Heisman on the football field, but for those reasons had it taken away. In a similar fashion here, let's say that everything you're saying about the NCAA is true, and they just want to vacate wins from last year for the defending national champion because they're trying to hold on to whatever power is left in, on the cusp of this super leagues that are being formed or whatever. It's not called the NCAA National Championship, right? Like, it's the College Football Playoff National Championship. And you even saw that when the selection process was happening. The playoff committee said, this doesn't have anything to do with us. Is this team, are the players eligible? The players are eligible, then this team's going to make the college football playoff. So even if the NCAA does want to retroactively enforce some sort of punishment on Michigan, what will that even mean for an era of college football where the playoff is determining the entire postseason?
Well, that's why I've continued to say vacating wins means absolutely nothing. I mean, it means absolutely nothing to no one. I've never met a player, a former player, or a former coach count a win that wasn't a win because it was vacated. I've never seen a former player brag about, oh yeah, well, we really beat them because their win was vacated in 2003. To me, it's like, when your parents threaten to do something to punish you, they're not going to do. Like you can't really take that away. That's why it's pointless. That's why, do you think Kentucky fans, really any of them, are pissed at all about having to vacate wins from a couple years ago? No, they don't care. If you told Michigan fans, oh, well, the NCAA is saying that last year, we used to claim national championships where if your local newspaper put a column in the newspaper that you won the national championship. Bama won a national championship, they're like 8-4. Like, it doesn't matter. It's done. Not only is it done, you've came out as a body in Charlie Baker, I'll say it again, and said it's done. So that's why even prolonging this, if you were going to suspend Sherrone Moore, is stupid. You said it's done. You said it's done. It's been handled, whatever. I'm to the point now. I'm so over it. It's old news. It is trying to make fetch work. I think that's the best way to put it.
What the NCAA, what they are doing is a bad look, regardless if Michigan actually violated any of their bylaws. And that's one of the things I think has frustrated so many people, even people who can't stand Michigan, even fans who would love to see Michigan get in trouble for something. They can't stand to see the way these arbitrary processes are playing out, especially making things a bigger deal than they otherwise should be. I think about Tennessee football too. This idea that the NCAA would sort of retroactively try and apply NIL rules that weren't in place, so much so that Tennessee sued them.
It's just
You're getting sued by the Volunteers.
It's a mess. It seems disorganized, and it just seems like a waste of time, and it's just driving me nuts.
All right, let's go to Caleb. Caleb, what's up? He says, NCAA is equivalent to that one ex that is still stalking you after 3 years.
Yeah.
Do either of you think any suspensions will come from this?
Well, me trying to guess what the NCAA is going to do is a waste of time. I think it goes back to David's point. what if Michigan? I watched Penny Hardaway tell the NCAA no at Memphis. You remember? They're like, you're suspended. He's like, no, I'm not. And really didn't much come of that. What's going to stop Sharon Moore from being like, no, I'm not? Then what are you going to do? Fight me? Like, I wonder if it's just Tennessee went back at him and won in court. All the players can beat the NCAA in any court case they want right now. They've got all the leverage.
True.
Like, at what point, like the NCAA, you are getting beat up in front of your family, in front of the high school, in front of everybody. At some point, you know what? You just got to shake hands and say, good fight. I'll try and get you next time.
Yeah, that's the ultimate question. Will Sharon Moore be suspended?
I wouldn't.
Who can even say this again? This is why we talk about the IRS, how crazy our tax system is, where you have no idea sometimes what you even owe or what you have to pay. I have no idea. And the University of Michigan may self-impose a 2-game suspension on Sharon Moore or something. This is what we saw.
I wouldn't
with Jim Harbaugh.
If I was Michigan, I wouldn't let the NCAA in the building.
Yeah, and again, that's the ultimate question: is does Michigan have the stones to say no? We're done.
I don't think so.
We're done complying.
If this was an SEC team, they would have told them. They would have told the NCAA to kiss my ass so long ago.
I agree.
They'd have people with pickup trucks sitting at the city limit, just waiting on you.
And that brings up another good part of this is you're trying to act in good faith, right? As an institution, hey, if we did this thing or that thing wrong, or Sharon Moore deleted these text messages, which isn't against the rules, but it is a bad look given that there was an investigation. Again, this is another question is, was Michigan aware of the investigation, or are they having to hear about it through Pete Thamel and ESPN2, and then text messages are getting released? This is, again, where the NCAA is continuing to mess up by not allowing the process to play out. But if they're not in charge and they have no more authority anymore, then who does? Somebody has to administer the rules. Every program just can't do whatever they want. What is going to happen in terms of
if there's going to be a breakaway
rules?
league and there's going to be some commission that gets put together and Greg Sankey is going to be in charge of it. Look, the media rights companies run this. The media companies run it. We all know that. Just like the energy companies run countries. That's who runs all this. ESPN and Fox runs all of this. The NCAA does not have power when you compare it to ESPN and Fox. That's why, again, we're moving to this breakaway league that we're going to have, and it's going to be run by ESPN, Fox, and then NBC is going to be able to do what they want to do with Notre Dame when they come to the table. Those are the people with the power. You think Charlie Baker's got power? Charlie Baker doesn't have power. He's a puppet that sits up there in some fake tribunal that pretends to keep tabs on college football. This is Game of Thrones right now, dog. This is Game of Thrones. Bama is at King's Landing. Georgia is over there at Harrenhal. I'll go through the whole game. This is Game of Thrones right now. It's the Wild West. And until we get some Super League that is headed by some commission that Greg Sankey, I'm sure, will be in charge of, and the rest of the commissioners, Yormark and Petiti, and these guys will be at the head of the thing with the media rights people. That's how this is going to go. YouTube, what is up? Appreciate the subs. Please keep doing it. We're very, very pleased with your presence.